What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Madeline Clifton. Now, the things Madeline Clifton went through is completely horrible, so viewer discretion is advised. But before we dive into the story today, make sure y'all smash the sub button, smash the like button, and ring the bell so you get notified every time I go live. If you do not smash the sub button and the like button and ring the bell, he's going to be very, very sad. Madeline Ray Clifton, or Maddie, was born June 17, 1990. Her parents' name was Steve and Sheila Clifton. She also had an older sister named Jessie. Jessie was 3 years older than she was, and they all lived in Jacksonville, Florida. Maddie was described as a polite, smiling, well-behaved young girl. She also took dance lessons and piano lessons. She was also somewhat of a tomboy, so she didn't mind getting dirty playing basketball and football with her sister. Maddie and her sister Jessie did everything together. They were very, very close. Jessie would describe Maddie as being her other half, which is why what happened November 3rd, 1998 would remain etched in Jessie's head forever. When Maddie was 8 years old, she would attend San Jose's Catholic school alongside of her sister. They both had a routine that they would follow every single day after school. As soon as they would get home from school every single day, they would do their homework, then they would do their piano lessons, and then they would go outside and play until dinner was ready. This day was basically the same, except Maddie would go outside and play before Jessie because Maddie didn't have that much homework to do. A few minutes after she was outside playing, Maddie would return back inside the house looking for golf balls. Jessie remembers that she even helped Maddie look for golf balls, and then once they found the golf balls, Jessie would go back to her piano lessons and Maddie would make her way back outside. Around the same time Maddie is getting ready to walk back outside to play, she would explain to her mom that she only came in for a few minutes to find some golf balls to play with. And she would explain to her mom that she is going to play outside until Jessie is done with her piano lessons. And then Jessie is going to come outside and they're going to play together until dinner was ready. So she would ask her mom, is that all right? Well, her mom would of course say, yeah, baby, that's fine, because it's a nice neighborhood. They've never had any problems here before, but her mom didn't know that this was the last time that she would see her alive. At around 6:30 p.m., Jessie was still not done with her piano lessons. So their mom, Sheila, would ask Jessie, could you go outside and call for Maddie, because dinner is almost ready. So Jessie would make her way outside, but Maddie was nowhere to be found. So Jessie would go back inside and she would tell her mom that she can't find Maddie anywhere. She told her, I looked everywhere and she is not out there. So kinda in a panic, Maddie's mom would go outside and she would search the entire neighborhood, asking everyone she's seen, have you seen my little girl? But nobody had seen her. So in a panic, she would call 911 and she would tell them that she can't find her little girl. A huge search party would immediately launch with hundreds of volunteers. They checked the woods, they checked the swamps, they handed out flyers to every single person they seen. Among the search party was 14-year-old Joshua Phillips. He lived directly across the street from Maddie, and he liked playing with her. Joshua seemed real concerned for his friend. Now, the search for Maddie lasted 6 days. Even the FBI and the National Guard came and helped look for her. Maddie's name was plastered everywhere. It was on flyers, t-shirts, hats, and even billboards. The whole community searched frantically for this little girl. A reward of $100,000 was even offered for information that would bring Maddie home.
We're not giving up. This is just the beginning. We are not giving up on finding Maddie. Maddie is out there and she's ready to come home.
What nobody realized was Maddie was a lot closer than they had thought. On the morning of the 7th day, Joshua's mother, Melissa, would notice a weird wet spot coming from underneath his waterbed. His mom thought that this water coming from underneath his waterbed might be the cause to this horrible smell that was lingering in his bedroom. So she would then pull the baseboards off from underneath his waterbed and she was completely shocked at what she had found. She saw 2 small, lifeless feet laying underneath her son's bed. Melissa was completely horrified. She ran out of her son's bedroom, straight out the front door, going across the street to get the police officer that was stationed outside the Clifton's house. She would later say that she didn't want to believe what she just saw, so she just pointed at where the police officer needed to go check. She couldn't even go back in the house, so the officer that went and checked would confirm what she had most feared. She had discovered Maddie's little body stuffed underneath her son's waterbed.
He saw Maddie's feet hanging out of the bed. It's a waterbed, and apparently it had been in some state of disrepair, and it was taped up. She was taped up in the bed, and it's apparent that she had began to decompose it.
So Joshua had been playing everyone all along. He pretended to worry about her whereabouts when the whole time she was stuffed underneath his waterbed. And when all those people was out searching for her through the neighborhoods and the woods and the swamps, he was right along with them, just searching away for her, when the whole time he knew exactly where she was. He even slept on this bed for 6 nights, all while her body was starting to decompose right below him. The autopsy report would reveal that Maddie took several blows to the head, and she was suffocated. All this was before she was stabbed multiple times in the stomach and in the chest with a knife. She was also found naked from the waist down, but there were no signs that she was assaulted.
From my observation of the body and preliminary reports from the autopsy, she had multiple stab wounds to her body, about 9, and she had stab wounds to her neck, 2. There were obvious evidence of blunt trauma to her head. It was obvious that, and from our investigation, it was apparent that she was killed immediately after she was abducted.
Probably the most disturbing part about all of this is whenever they found Maddie's body, her hands were still clutching onto the bed frame, which means she was still alive whenever she was stuffed underneath this bed. The investigators would find both the knife and the baseball bat hidden in Josh's closet. He also had cans of air freshener and freshly burned incense on his nightstand, which investigators would also believe that he used to mask the smell of the decomposing body. The police also found one of Maddie's missing person flyers sitting on his nightstand. And did you know that the police searched his house 3 different times and didn't find anything suspicious at all?
We had searched that house 3 previous times, and the reason that we didn't find Maddie was because of the way she was encased in the bed.
Joshua was still in school whenever the discovery was made, so the police went straight to his school and arrested him on school grounds. And whenever they got back to the station, he would confess immediately. He actually told the investigators step by step how everything panned out that afternoon. Apparently, Maddie went over to Josh's house to play, and he would then tell her that he couldn't play because his parents wouldn't allow him to have guests whenever they weren't home. But Maddie was very persistent, so Josh said that he would agree to play with her, but only for a few minutes because his dad would be home very soon, and his dad would be very mad at him if she was there when he got there. Josh told police that around 5:15 p.m., he and Maddie was in his backyard playing baseball, and he accidentally hit the ball so hard it flew into Maddie's head and it caused a big gash. Maddie then fell down on the ground and started screaming, so Josh would grab her by the legs and drag her up to his bedroom. Here is where he would try and get Maddie to stop crying, but she was in so much pain from this big gash on her head that she couldn't just stop crying. So he took his baseball bat and he smashed her in the head 3 times, and then he would shove her under the bed. Josh told investigators that she was still moaning when his dad got home. In a panic, he would pull her out from under the bed, and this is where he would stab her multiple times and then shove her back under the bed.
The waterbed mattress was on top of her. This is a piece of plywood here that separates a cavity here. Got about 400 pounds of water here, and this is secured. You have an aerial view here, and you can see the body was in somewhat of a fetal position.
The news of Josh's arrest was completely shocking to the community because they never imagined that the friendly boy who was at the forefront of the search for Maddie was actually her killer. Many who knew Josh described him as being a completely normal kid. He liked reading and working on computers. He showed absolutely no signs of being troubled. He was even liked by all the kids in the neighborhood. So why exactly did he do this? Well, Josh insisted that he killed Maddie out of fear of his father, which made many people wonder how bad could his home life have been to make him commit such an awful crime. Melissa described her husband Steve as frightening and intimidating, and sometimes overbearing, and that she and Josh had to walk on eggshells in the house. She explained that Steve did not like Josh playing with girls that was younger than he was, and she really just couldn't understand why he was like that. Josh's father, Steve, did admit that he probably should have handled things differently with his son, but he also said that he thinks it wouldn't have made that much of a difference. Josh's trial began July of 1999, with the prosecution presenting a great deal of evidence, including the baseball bat and the knife, and his tennis shoes, which were stained with Maddie's blood. But the most damning piece of evidence was his own confession. The prosecution would argue that Josh had planned on assaulting Maddie. That's why he had removed some of her clothing. It was alleged that Josh's main target was actually Maddie's sister, Jessie, because her picture was found in his room. The defense denied this allegation, saying Maddie's clothes fell off while he was dragging her to his bedroom. The defense also stated, and I quote, "Josh Phillips is not a monster because of an act that started as an accident and deteriorated through panic that borderline on madness." What really surprised everyone was that Josh's defense lawyer didn't call any witnesses to testify on Josh's behalf. In fact, the entire hired defense was just a closing argument. The jury only took a little over 2 hours to find Josh guilty of first-degree murder, and despite Josh only being 14 years old, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Later on, Josh would be asked how was he able to function for an entire week after committing such an awful crime. He said that he was putting himself into a fantasy world.
Through the entire time, I was putting myself in a fantasy world that nothing had happened, and that was my defense for everything when I was a kid. Was if something went wrong, ignore it, it'll go away. And it worked a couple times, and that's why I believed it, you know what I mean?
Over the years, Josh's family made several attempts to appeal his sentence. The Supreme Court would rule that it was unlawful to sentence a minor to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 2016, he was granted a hearing, but that hearing didn't work out in his favor as he was sentenced to life in prison once again. He had another review sometime in 2023, but I really couldn't find any information on what happened. But I do know he is still in prison to this day, and I am sure that Maddie's family will ensure that he will never get out of jail. Well, that's it for today, guys. I really appreciate y'all taking time out of your busy day and listening to my stories. And make sure y'all hit the sub button, hit the like button, and ring the bell so you get notified every single time I post a video. And I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm out.